So we do have to take this pressure plate and, clutch discs out to put on the flywheel. So I got me a couple of sandwich bags here labeled in numbers because you have to keep track of the washers on each one to make sure the spacing is correct when you put it on and the balancing as well. You also got to make sure this alignment mark is aligned when fully assembling this whole clutch. Went through all these instructions, and those are the key points. If not more, I will let you know later once I get to that. Obviously, all these shims and everything are going to have to be in the same spot. So I will record this just so that I have reference of where everything was at. And I am going to put them in numerical order. I'll probably go 1, 2, 3 all the way around. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. There is slight shipping oils, I'm assuming, so it doesn't rust out. We will clean this off with brake cleaner before reassembling. I'm gonna set this off to the side, labeled on the away from the flywheel. This is labeled flywheel side, so we'll keep that in mind. I'm gonna put it how it should face on the pressure plate. Yep. Now I'm gonna label this 1, 2, 3. 1 on the top pink mark side. And there are some washers on these as well. Yeah, so those washers. A lot of washers. So I'll keep those on there. And I'll just put on the top nut. That way, this is star 3, just so they don't fall out. And they can stay in the same orientation as they were. I believe they said not to put any Loctite on these, but you can put Loctite on the flywheel bolts themselves. We're gonna clean this off with brake clean and make sure not to remove this pink mark here. It does have a lot of shipping dust. So we'll clean the back side first. We'll clean the front side once we have it mounted. This back side here. Yeah, that's gonna be brake clean first, and then we'll do the side facing the clutch once we get it on the car. So let's get under there and get on those mounting bolts, the new flywheel bolts there. Just got these from AutoZone, part number 14112. Just comes in a pack. I think they were 17 bucks. These are like original GM bolts, so they will do and they will hold. No issues there. Was looking for ARP, but due to timing, these are gonna work fine. It does have blue Loctite on it already. I might throw a little bit of red on there just for safety measures. Precautionary measure. All right, let's get under the car and get to throwing this on finally. So I did notice also there are shims and washers here on these. Sorry, I'm not even showing it. There's shims and washers on these 6 bolts. So I did put the nuts on there based off the bags on which order, numerical order, 1, 2, 3, and so forth. Just so they don't fall off while putting this on, as well as these. That's just a little tip I had for that. Now we can get under there and throw it on. Okay, flywheel's on. Bolts are in, torque down in sequence. It was 15. Let me double check. 15, 37, 74. Yeah, 1537 and then 74 foot-pounds on those. Those are torque to yield. Do make sure this alignment dowel in the rear lines up. Now we could throw on the clutch. I did have to use the little flywheel holder there. So let's go grab that clutch and start putting it on. Make sure these shims stay in place. Everything stays in place where it should be. Yeah, let's go grab it. All right, brand new McLeod clutch is in. All torqued down. Bottom 3 floater plate bolts are torqued to 25 foot-pounds, and clearance is good. Also, the 6 pressure plate bolts are torqued down to 35 foot-pounds per in the instructions. Yeah, everything looks good. Everything went in fine. All the shims and washers are where they should be and how they should be, how it came at least. Now we just got to get ready to put the rest back together. Obviously, I did put in the alignment tool to make sure it was all lined up. All torqued down, ready to go. Now we got to get ready to put on that slave cylinder here. There's no play. Not much, if any, play in this input shaft. I'm gonna clean it up with the wire brush. Just clean it up and put on the new slave cylinder. I'll clean that edge here. So brake clean and get ready to start getting this back in here. Clean all these up and figure out where I'm gonna run that speed bleeder. I think through here. Follow with the hydraulic clutch line. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's get to it. Okay, new slave cylinder's in. You can see the speed bleeder there. And then the hydraulic clutch line. I did clean off the input shaft. That's cleaned up. These bolts are torqued down and marked. I cleaned it up as the best I could. Now we just gotta get on the bell housing and get ready to slide this back in. Hopefully it all goes well. Still gotta route the speed bleeder. It's already tightened up and ready to go back in. Let's get ready. I'm gonna wrap up these wires here and some new heat shield tape. And possibly those as well up there. We'll see. I don't know if I have the room really to get to those. Yeah. All right, bell housing is cleaned off. All that gunk taken off. Now we can go ahead and throw this back on the car, torque it down, and get ready to put back in the whole transmission and subframe assembly. All right, we got this reverse lockout cover off. You did have to take off the sensor on it and then the cover. 2 torch bit and then 2 12mm bolts. You do got to be careful because this roller lifter will fall out, and hopefully you don't drop it inside of the transmission. But it does have a little spring on it as well. Just make sure that don't fall out and you put that back in place when putting it back together. I'm just going to clean this up, make this nice and clean, and go ahead and throw some ultra black on there, tighten it down, and it should be good. Shouldn't leak no more. We'll get to putting this all back together as well. Just button up a few things. The front is all put back together, torqued down. Shock mounting bolts, upper control arm bolts, subframe bolts torqued down. The bell housing is on already. I don't know if I showed that, but there it is. I did reroute the cutout wirings to go with this harness through that plastic piece. Also, I had to replace some crush washers on this side because the brake caliper was leaking, but that's fixed now. All this side's torqued up. Just gotta get ready, jack this up, cleaned off the tips, cleaned those up. while they were off, just easier. And I did reseal this reverse lockout on top of this transmission. That's resealed, ultra black, torqued down. Everything's good to go. Connector for this sensor back here. I did replace that with a new AC Delco one. So that one's replaced just because it was broken off, just like this one here. Still waiting on this one to come in, but you can see how bad that one is if it would focus. Yeah. So I got a new one coming in for that as well. I have another connector for the coolant temperature sensor. Just because I don't know when, how, or why, but this one broke. So we'll replace that as well. It's kind of a pain in the ass to get in there, but I'll get it before I put in the header, so it's a little easier. And yeah, now I just gotta get the jack over here, jack this up and get that input shaft in, route those wires, connect the transmission cooler lines, and get ready to reroute everything else like the e-brake cables and the wiring, all the connectors for the transmission plugged in, and the inside here, the shifter and everything, shift linkage and all. So let's get to doing that. I'm gonna get the jack under here and get ready to push this thing back in there. They look aligned. Oh, you know what? The pilot bearing doesn't even look like it's in the middle. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's weird. Hold on. All right, y'all. So just so y'all know, just as an update, I did have to pull everything back out again because it was not lining up or going in. So I thought it was maybe the engine wasn't leveled, the torque tube wasn't leveled. Those were leveled. It just wasn't going all the way in. And this is my fault for not using the alignment tool properly. So you can see it goes in just the first set of fingers, or clutch disc, but it doesn't go through the second one. And it appears, or it is, that the gears are just barely off on the back. So now I had to take off the bow housing, you know, drop the engine. I didn't lower the subframe this time. I did loosen the bolts, but I didn't take it all off. Hopefully it goes on easier than it came off. But now I am going to take off this pressure plate and get in my alignment tool and make sure it goes all the way through, double check, triple check, and then torque it down again. And we should be good after that. So let's get back to taking off this pressure plate and getting to the clutch discs and lining those up. All right, so we found what the issue was. This alignment tool, it moves around a lot. Now we got 2 bolts tightened down so it doesn't move, but it causes the discs to sag down, which makes this unaligned and kind of sort of at a small angle, which is not ideal for putting in the input shaft. McLeod says it's not an uncommon issue, but if you look in here, these discs are more flush to the floater plate. So now we should be good. This is pretty much centered from eyeballing it. That's what they say to do, eyeball it. It looks as centered as I can get it, or as I can tell. So now we're gonna torque these down to spec, all these bolts, and give it another shot putting in this, whole assembly and input shaft. We should be good. I thought at first that the alignment tool wasn't going all the way through, but it does. I can see it go through from the bottom, and it does insert into the pilot bearing. So the pilot bearing's fine, It was just that this was sagging a bit. And what I had to do was hold this in the middle. I had a friend tighten down 2 of the bolts so that it doesn't move anymore. Now we should be good. So I'll torque down these 6 bolts to spec and give this input shaft one more shot. Let's get to it. All right, I don't remember where I left you guys off at, but we did get on the input shaft. Everything's tightened down. Trans cooler lines are connected. There, starter is on. All the transmission connectors are all hooked up all the way back to the ABS sensors. I still gotta replace this sensor here. I'm gonna drain the transmission right now and change the fluid. But we got the exhaust cutout wires back here as well. And once I replace this connector will go into there. Like I said, the ABS, e-brake cables and all are connected and plugged in. Subframe is mounted. It's about to be torqued. Now I just got to clean out the bottom of this. I already cleaned the top, just got to clean the bottom. And torque down the shocks in the rear. All the connectors you can see are all plugged in. Then get on this torque tube tunnel cover and start putting it on the exhaust. Put back together the engine bay. Plug in this clutch cable or this clutch line and route the speed bleeder. It's already going through there. You can see goes to the top. We just gotta figure out a spot to mount it and we should be good to go. So I'll get to doing that and I'll update you guys on what I got done next. So this clutch line was a pain in the ass, but what I had to do was access through here. You can see right there, you can see the hard line to the clutch master cylinder. I took a pry bar from through here to push that connection into the other one, which is that one there, this one, and I pushed them into each other till you heard a small click. Then I put in that retainer clip and that's all it took for that. It took me a little while just to get that, but 2 bolts and a couple of clips here that you got to unbolt to get to that in order to get enough leverage to push it into each other and clip in. But now I'm going to route this speed bleeder, give you a good amount of room. I'll probably go around maybe the brake booster or something, put it somewhere where it's next to this reservoir. So I'll figure out where I'm gonna route that. This does have to be tightened down. I noticed some fluid leaking out of it already. It wasn't tightened at all, so I will tighten that down. I'll probably put some thread sealant on it as well, just in case. And that's it for that connection. That's in there. Now I just gotta button these up, maybe zip tie them to each other, and yeah, move on to the next thing. Went ahead and put some new heat shielding wrap on these connections here. One for the AFR gauge and then the O2 sensor. I also did the ones on the bottom. I did get the driver's side header on. I did the connections down here, that one over there, and then the ones in the rear. I'll show you guys that when I get back over there. I just got to get on this passenger side header and get ready to put on the X-pipe and start putting on the mufflers, and that's going to be all for under the car. I do got to torque the subframe bolts and the shock mounting bolts and put on the rear sway bar and all the wheels. I cleaned up the transmission already. The new sensor is on there. Get down there real quick to show you. New sensor's on. Connections on. There's that heat shield wrap for the cutouts, as well as that one. Routed those better. Now that I see back here, I'm gonna clean that a little more. but from the front couldn't see that. So I also am going to do a transmission fluid change, and I still have to bleed all the brakes for the clutch, hydraulic clutch system. I bought AC Delco .4 for the hydraulic clutch system. For the brakes, I just got some .4 Prestone Max. This has a 500-degree boiling point. The only downside is you got to change it every 1 to 2 years because it absorbs more moisture than the .3, but it's still going to be better and better performing for this. I'll bleed the clutch here now, which is way easier than being down there. I'll get on this header. You can see the heat shielding wrap I put on the clutch line and the O2 sensor. So that's ready to go. Let's go ahead and throw this header in there and get to putting on the rest of the exhaust. We're on the last final steps. Still got to put on the plug wires and plugs. I'm gonna go buy some new ones because the other ones were fouled out. But right now we are bleeding the clutch system and the brake system. I just have Buddy in there pumping the clutch pedal. I'm using the speed bleeder, releasing it. We're pushing out all the old fluid. As you can see here, nasty fluid with the brand new fluid. So once I'm done with that, these were cleaned out as well. I already siphoned those out. Making sure that it's not going on empty. I am topping it off, and we're gonna move on to the brake fluid next. So this speed bleeder is one hell of a thing. I think it was worth $160. So we'll start pumping that, and then we'll get to the brakes. All right, as you can see, she's back on the ground. Finally, all suspension's torqued up, brakes are bled. Hydraulic clutch system's bled. Everything on the rear is torqued down. Wheels are on, torqued. Interior's put back together. Shifter boot and all. I could pop under the hood real quick and show you the fluids. They look way better than before. Everything's tightened down in here. Spark plugs, coils. I got new spark plugs coming in tomorrow, as well as new wire covers, because these ones are all hard and white. They can't handle the heat. Clutch fluid. Brand new clutch fluid. Bled out with the speed bleeder. And brand new brake fluid. It looks a little dirty here because the reservoir was a little dirty, but it was all coming out clear of the brakes. So brake pedal is stiff. Clutch feels good so far. Now we just got to get a cold start and get ready to take her out for a little test drive. Hopefully everything sounds good.